Talking with famous people.
Hello and welcome to Talking with Famous People. I'm host Eric, and here today is my guest famous person Justin, and we're gonna have a fun discussion. This is gonna be fun. Go Justin, try to win.
Okay, but what mechanism does your plan occur?
Legislation.
Okay. What aspects of government surveillance are to be eliminated by this plan?
The aspects of government surveillance that will be eliminated upon the passage and manifestation of this plan are every kind of surveillance by any individual in the employ of government for government purposes.
Okay, and what time frame does this occur?
Well, it's hard to say exactly, but I'd say within 2 years.
Within 2 years? Okay. You also say that individuals are dramatically less likely to do something if they know they're going to go to prison. You cited the study, I'm not sure what the site was, but where exactly, can you give me a specific example of specifically someone said that they would not do something illegal because it carried a long jail sentence?
Well, I can do better than that. I can show you a demographic study that indicates that the amount of people who wore their seatbelt went up by almost 22% after the passage of the California seatbelt law.
Okay, but did people who were surveyed say that specifically it was because of the seatbelt law?
Well, what we've established with that study is something that answers that question, which is no, there was no alternate explanation for so strong a correlation, and so the only logical conclusion is that it must have been the deterrent effect.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
How many incarcerations are resultant as have happened as a result of surveillance policies?
Well, according to my evidence, it's between 100 and 180,000.
Okay. In your Porter 1 card, you said that the standard code shows long-standing worsening trend towards crippling complexity. What do you mean by complexity?
Right. Well, see, legislation is like, for example, bone growth. Bone growth is great because you want your bones to be strong so you can hold your body up so you're not a puddle on the ground. However, you want your bones to stop growing at a certain point. Otherwise, you become... and then you're just locked in one place because you're all bone and just like this much skin, and the rest of you's all bone, and you weigh a whole bunch because bone's heavier than...
Okay, what's the terminal impact of this case?
The terminal impact?
Yeah, what's the impact of this case? That was a better question.
The impact of this case is, well, let's start with 180,000 lives that won't be ruined the next time we roll through this whole thing.
So 180,000 lives. Is that the number of people in our incarceration?
Well, that's the number that I gave you for people whose arrests per year have something to do with surveillance.
Okay, then by what metric should we measure this sort of suffering of these 180,000 people? Like, what measure?
Well, we point out that unless the terrorist attack you're positing actually happens and kills them, they would choose just about anything besides being locked in a cage. Whatever proposed life-threatening risk you're going to posit, we know this. The people who are locked in a cage right now would gladly choose to accept that risk over continuing to remain locked in a cage for no good reason.
Okay, what are the main, what do you propose are the main kinds of people that are locked in prison?
Well, do you know that something about 4% are engaged in actual rights violations? Most of them are engaged in either drug laws, things like lots of sort of rules violations that aren't rights violations. Things like, I mean, certainly there are literal criminals, but most of the crime is some kind of, well, you didn't pay this ticket, so now there's a bench warrant. Okay. So now we've arrested you. It's that kind of stuff.
Okay. Do you agree that targets are disproportionately incarcerated due to racial bias?
I agree that there is a racially disproportionate incarceration rate.
Okay. How about having to do with surveillance?
I'd say that it reflects surveillance at the same rate as any other thing.
Okay.
I wouldn't say there's a special rate. Like, I'm not claiming certainly that African Americans are surveilled at a higher rate.
Okay.
I don't think that's why surveillance is bad.
Okay, but then who would your plan, emancipate? I mean,
everybody who's not working for the government.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically what I've done is that I locked him into something that I can bring up in my next speech. Number one is that he said that the government does the plan Okay, the government does the plan, right? It acts through legislation, but at the same time, in his inherency evidence, he said that legislation that restricts government through bureaucratic rulemaking is doomed to fail, right? That's his Hansen card. He literally said that it's going to be through legislation. So, like, if he wants to limit he said in Crossex that he would limit government agencies, and eventually would limit surveillance and eliminate the surveillance, and that's literally bureaucratic rulemaking. Congress is like bureaucratic. So, like, what happens is that
Why do you think I put that in the case, Justin?
so that you would contradict yourself.
No. Because to prevent myself from contradicting myself.
You literally-
I draw a distinction between bureaucratic rulemaking and enforcement of legitimate laws against rights violations. A law that's not for prohibition against rights violations is not a bureaucratic rule.
Okay, something I forgot to ask you is, like, does this affect citizens? Like, does this affect exclusively citizens?
Do you think citizens go to jail?
No, I mean, like, does it affect, like, viewing surveillance by citizens?
Well, as per my plan text.
Okay.
Ask more. Now that you know what that thing you thought you caught, you're not going anywhere with it.
Well, I'm going somewhere with, like, extra topicality.
Okay, extra tropicality is fine. That's your strongest point I've heard from you so far. And you picked up on it right away. He said FX topical because what I'm really doing is saying, because human nature is like this, if we pass this legislation that makes this behavior criminal, then it's going to affect this change upon bureaucratic institutions indirectly.
Yeah.
I'm not passing a law that directly dictates to government agencies, don't do this anymore.
Yeah, that's something you have to be, like, really wary, you have to watch out for, is because, like, a lot of people are going to go on these long chains of, like, impacts that really are completely divorced from their plan text because it's just so far out there. Like, it might be an eventual result, but there's no reason that you should garner them, like, if this is their plan text, okay, this is, like, the direct impacts, you shouldn't give them all this space. Because that's, like, you can't know for sure. Like, the further you get from your plan text, the more these are, like, not related and not certain.
However, I would say that I like the effect topical angle of attack. I think it's not a particularly strong one here because this is how far it is from the actual thing is the basic human fear of being locked in prison. Right?
Okay.
So I mean it's like I'm not reaching very far here.
I mean,
Right?
like, there are things that have been illegal in the past that the NSA has just walked through. Like, that's why circumvention exists.
Right, but they're illegal by bureaucratic rulemaking, not by criminal prosecution. They need to. The problem that we have is this: when government does horrible stuff, they have these laws in place that shield them from being individually held accountable as human beings. So it's like, well, you can sue the city for $10 million because Officer Joe beat the shit out of your husband, but you can't actually sue Officer Joe because he was on the job. If, in fact, it were the other way around, it would have a much, much huger impact on individual behavior. It should be the other way around. That you have to show that the city government has rules in place that make that stuff more likely or that require him to do that rights violation.
Okay.
Otherwise, the individual should be held accountable. Now, it is important to go over this.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing that you should be worried about right now is not, like, the bulk of the argument, because every single one of your cross-exes is going to be different because you're going to be encountering different arguments. It's more about the mechanics, okay? Remember that cross-ex isn't speech time? I know a lot of people, what they like to do is to start talking about their stuff when they're the one asking questions. And, you know, that makes you cringe inside a little bit because, like, that's not what cross-ex is meant to do. Once you get the answer that you want, don't say, like, don't reveal your, reveal your trap.
Totally.
Okay, like,
But I'm going to pause you because we're on time. Because videoing, I want to be time sensitive. I want to now cross you. You're me. You're defending this case. I'm crossing you.
I don't like this case. Okay.
Well, you didn't make much progress against it.
Yeah, I did.
Do you? Oh, really?
Now I can run 20 Ks, dude.
Which case are you going to run?
I'm gonna run the state K.
Are you going to even address my theory of truth argument?
No.
My spike?
No, because I'm gonna say that's, like, irresponsibly vague, and there's no reason that I should be held to that arbitrary metric.
And I'm going to say, this is a sad state of debate we're in indeed. If my opponent is trying to claim that sentence he just said is true, but can't tell me a goddamn thing about what it means to be true, then he has not really done his work, has he?
Then I would say that, like, truth is relative, and the only way we can determine truth is through debate, and this is what the entire round is about. If you think I'm not true, bring up actual reasons why I'm not true, instead of just listing off like a vague theory of truth. That's what you're here for. You're here to prove me wrong, not to prove some, like, abstract theory of truth and automatically knock out
Okay, so
everything.
you've just expressed to me what your theory of truth is. You just didn't know what it was called.
Okay. Then
Okay, so you
that's
have
not-
what's called a correspondence theory of truth. However, the correspondence theory of truth does not actually indicate what you seem to think it does. The correspondence theory of truth indicates instead that you need to conform with broad general consensus as to what the individual symbols mean, not the argumentation that you're making.
No,
So
but
now that we
my
understand that
theory
you are
was-
evaluating the
was
truth
my
statements
theory of
based on the
truth.
meaning of individual
Okay.
symbols, we understand you are taking a definitional framework. Now you've established for us that you're taking a definitional framework, we can move forward in terms of the actual argumentation in the round.
Okay, and then we just start talking about the argument, and that's fine.
Okay, so good. That's
You know
good.
how much
That's fine.
nostalgia I'm getting right now.
Okay, but look, thing is, it's fine. Instead of challenging the theory of truth thing like that, I would do the exact opposite. I would say, I'm eager to meet your burden. I want to meet your burden. Explain these really quickly, understanding this is a time suck. You're costing me time, but go ahead quickly. And which theory of truth are you operating under? Okay, and which kind of arguments does that preclude you from making? Okay, and if I were to violate this burden that you've assigned, what would it look like on my end? Okay, good, thank you. Now, the trap that they think they've set has become a trap for you to set because you framed everything through this burden that is assigned as a reciprocal burden, right? It's his burden too. If it's your burden to know what theory of truth you're under, it's his burden too. He might know really well, but in answering your questions, he's pinning himself to stuff. You have yet to concede to this burden at all, right? You shouldn't prepare yourself to challenge the burden. You prepare yourself to, what golden opportunities does this burden provide me? Right? It does, because it's reciprocal. Okay? So, now, I'm going to ask you questions about this case. And try to defend it as best you can.
Does
So-
anyone have like
I have a shh.
no because like no
I have
because
two of them actually. Shh.
I don't have any storage left.
I'm
so I need
recording
to
it.
transfer my
I'm
stuff.
recording, so don't worry about it. You'll get it off. You can watch it on Talking with Famous People later. All right.
I recorded it and then he never posted the video.
Look, I only operate with my own machines because it's otherwise things get complicated. All right. So anyway, that's notwithstanding. All right. So first, let me see what this case is here. You're talking about passing a law that criminalizes for individual people working for the government this certain behavior. So, aren't you creating a situation in which you're making it illegal for them to do their job?
Yeah.
And if it's illegal for them to do their job, are you still saying we're going to pay them to do their job?
Well, then those jobs would be eliminated because there's no reason that they should exist.
Who's going to eliminate them?
The federal government.
But you just said bureaucratic rulemaking doesn't solve anything. Now that's bureaucratic rulemaking, firing people, right?
Well, no, because firing people is not making rules, it's just firing people. I don't understand how that links.
Okay, fine. Good enough. I will explain it better. It is indeed a protocol implemented by an organizational schemata, right?
Okay.
So given that, it's part of executing a bureaucratic system, yes?
No.
It's not. To fire somebody because they're no longer useful. So
Okay,
your
the difference
contention...
between bureaucratic rulemaking and the plan that we propose is that our plan is based around, human rights and like the deontology of human rights as so explicitly stated by the person who wrote
Okay,
this
but
case.
forget that.
So the difference is that
That's enough. Thank
bureaucratic
you. That's
rulemaking
enough.
is not-
Thank
is
you.
not
Thank
like-
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
My question is about the firing mechanism. How do you know they're going to get fired? Just because they're useless.
Because we know that like these government bosses will have, the goodwill and the good insight.
Isn't it your whole point the government's incompetent?
What?
Isn't your whole point in your case the government's incompetent?
Yeah, which is why we should reform it.
So why would they be competent enough to fire people who are useless? I can think of 100,000 useless people working for the government right now.
Okay.
You know what? I have no use for anyone working at the DMV. Do you? Do you feel it's useful to go pay them a bunch of money to get a piece of paper?
I've never been to the DMV.
So are they useful to you?
I've never been.
Do you
there.
want
They
part of
might
your
be
tax
useful.
dollars to pay
They
for
might be
this?
useful in the future, but I've never been to the DMV.
So why should we conclude the government's going to fire useless people?
Because it's literally a law. There's no because
Not a lot of firing.
the government does not fire like useless people like the useless people at the DMV because it's not illegal for those people to work at the DMV. But literally every single instance where something has been made illegal, those jobs have been eliminated.
So, let's say there's a closed circuit TV going on at the DMV. It's there for security purposes. We want to see in case somebody runs in with a baseball bat to try to hit us or whatever. There's a closed circuit TV. Does that mean if I go to work at the DMV, I know if my eyes accidentally look at that TV, I could be going to prison. My question is this: is the DMV going to fire everybody, or are people going to just endure the risk of going to prison every time they go to work? Or alternately, is everybody going to quit?
You mean every time they look at the TV?
You're right. They could be incurring multiple examples of major criminal offense. They could have 5 felonies by coffee break.
Well, the thing is that our law assumes that it was intentional, because there needs to be like some sort in court. If you're trying to like incriminate someone for not following this law, there has to be some some burden of intent. You have to prove intent to commit the crime.
Well, for example, what if I can show that the person was watching and they're reading a newspaper and they're like, and it really displays intent to look at the video for just a second.
And the problem isn't with the law; it's with like the court system. Then that's not what we're like. That's not.
So what's the problem with the court system here? You have that person locked in a cage for 10 years like you want. So explain to me how this is supporting human rights.
How do you mean?
You've got the random DMV employee who intentionally looked at a closed circuit TV showing what's going on in the lobby of the DMV. You've got that person now locked in a cage for 10 years. Congratulations. Explain to me how does that support human rights?
Absolutely ignores like different shades of criminal intent, like how different forms of crime.
What's the punishment? What's the punishment for your law?
We have a scaling punishment system.
A scaling punishment. So if I watch a video for 30 seconds, this is really going to help. It's really going to hurt your YouTube watch time.
It depends on the end goal of what that surveillance did, of what watching that surveillance did.
Oh, I see. So you're gonna modulate the punishment based on the negative outcomes of the illegal surveillance.
Yes.
Watching. Okay. So am I then not able to get any kind of effective justice if a government official has a secret camera in your house that's legal to spy on you for to see if you're engaged in a drug deal, but the government agent uses it when he's not supposed to watch your wife change her clothes and be naked, right?
Oh.
Now, your wife never knows about it. You never know about it. Later on, it comes out in the court case that this has gone on. Nobody was hurt by it. The cop never talked about it at all. What's the damage? Have you established any damage from that?
Yeah, negative outcome was violation of privacy, and also governmental overreach.
Is privacy a right?
Yes.
Based on what?
Based on the Constitution.
Okay, but derived from what principle?
The First Amendment.
Freedom of speech? Privacy is a right because of freedom of speech. That doesn't make any sense. Speech is expressing to others.
It's one of the first 10 amendments. I forgot which.
I think it's amendment like.
It's not any amendment. Right to privacy is not in the Constitution.
No.
Well, it's based off
It's
the
the
role of
Third Amendment.
society.
It's the Third Amendment because the Third Amendment talks about like the quartering of
The
truth.
quartering of soldiers.
Yeah, but then it also implies that you have the right to privacy.
It implies. No, you have inferred from it. It does not imply. I have inferred because it serves my purpose right now. Because it serves my purpose right now, I have inferred. God damn it, let me be quiet.
Okay, fine.
Because it serves my purpose right now, I have inferred from the quartering of soldiers amendment a right to privacy.
No,
that is not explaining to me that the right to privacy is in the Constitution.
Well, let me answer that
Not what I
question again.
meant.
Okay, you can see it through like different things that have been going on in society, like multiple court cases, multiple laws that have been passed that, yeah, privacy is a right because the government upholds privacy through passing these laws and making these court decisions. That upholds.
Do I have the right to privacy in my car?
That depends. What context are we talking about?
I'm driving my car
You're driving your car.
down the street.
Okay.
On a public road?
Yes.
Then what do you
Oh,
think
okay,
that privacy
then,
would
yeah.
entail?
Okay.
Well, I mean, you would be able to, for example,
It's longer than 3 minutes. This is
if I had the right to privacy in my car, then I should be able to have completely darkened windows, except for the front window, and prevent people from looking in, right?
Yeah, but the problem is that like your conception of privacy is based on something that's like, oh, there's no risk, so I should have like absolute privacy. Privacy.
I'm not saying you should have. I'm saying you don't have a right to privacy.
I know privacy is only privacy insofar as like it keeps others safe. If you have privacy and you're using that to threaten others,
Privacy's only privacy to keep somebody safe. So I shouldn't have the right to close the bathroom door when I'm going poop.
No, I'm talking about
That doesn't keep anybody
your
safe.
Privacy, if your
Well,
privacy
my poop maybe
is,
is
if,
really
if your privacy is based in like doing something criminal or doing something that's wrong, then your right to privacy is like essentially, yeah, you still have it. But if you're doing something criminal, then you're still going to be punished.
But how are you going to know if they're doing something criminal without first violating their right to privacy? On the assumption that they're doing something wrong.
well, they have to bring it forward. If there's like if there
That's
is
not all right. What you're
if there
talking
is
about.
a negative outcome from this sort of surveillance and viewing surveillance, then yes, we have grounds in order to prosecute for criminal activity.
Okay, but look, you offer no prescriptive path forward. You say it's a crapshoot, guys. If it turns out like this, you're going to jail. If it turns like this, you're golden.
Well, maybe because three minutes ago, Cross-X would have ended.
Forget
They
that.
wouldn't have
Justin, I
gone
want to
this
actually
far.
argue the idea. This is great. You did a fantastic job, Justin. Listen, when you see one of these things, and Justin, I'm talking to you and you guys as well, you hear me seem getting very animated and almost like angry saying, of course, I'm not emotionally invested in it at all, but I want you guys to sound like that. I want you guys to sound contemptuously furious at their horribly stupid wrongness. That's the attitude I want you to convey in the debate round. Now, Justin will probably fix this bad advice of mine in a second. Bad advice?
A little bit. You need to be respectful.
But, you have a minimum respectability you have to meet. Beyond that is just if you want to be nice, okay? But you definitely be respectful, but not any more than respectful.
Not anymore.
And respectful in a contemptuous way.